So we have a lot of people that share after they have, for example, gone and had a job interview. We do review resumes. If you have a resume, we would love to take a look at it and give you some pointers on it. I have been in the IT and security field for 34 years. I have reviewed well over 1,000 interviews. I'm sorry, 1,000 resumes. And I've conducted hundreds and hundreds of interviews over the course of my years. I've been in program management for 22 of those 34 years. So I'm the person that hires security teams, for example. So good morning, Anderson. Good to see you. And we have
thank you. Good morning.
So we do resume reviews. We can do interview prep where you learn more about the questions and stuff. And we also have the ability to share with you things like, what is the manager thinking about you when you're in your interview? And it's not just, I'm good at this tool, I'm good at this tool, I'm good at this tool. It's really not. And so I have that experience that I can bring and show everyone here that the manager, the supervisor, even HR, they're trying to look at you and ask, would you be a good fit? And it's not just professionally, it's personally and interpersonally. So that's where we're going to share a little bit about it this morning. And I wanted to, let me bring this up. Oh, and Harminder's getting on too. Man, we're having a good group this morning. All right, I'm going to minimize this off to where nobody sees it. And then I'm going to turn on our slide presentation. Can everybody see that? Please let me know.
Yes, Scotty. Good morning.
Okay. Okay. Hey, Harminder. Good to see you. So we're going to talk about, and I'm using this interesting little phrase, I call it becoming conversant. It's just big words, but it basically means, let's start off with this, and I get a little goofy here. Yep, this is another one of Scotty's things. When I say becoming conversant, what I'm trying to indicate is that this is a highly specialized career field. Cybersecurity requires a high degree of technical proficiency to be good at this. However, you also have to be able to use the language that is part of this career field. Using the language is something that you have to practice. It's not just like, you just walk in and you can start talking about stuff that you just learned. There's a period of time where you have to acquaint yourself with the verbiage. So I call it learning to talk the talk. All right? So that's what I mean when I say becoming conversant. And so a lot of people, have not been here long enough to realize that we do a lot of things designed to encourage you to speak. If you are in a class where you're learning something, you go in, you show up, your teacher says, blah, 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 I'm teaching you, blah, 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 I'm teaching you. Anybody have any questions? You all say, nope, you sign off and you go home. This is not that. This mentorship program is designed for interaction. Okay, so you may ask yourself, why do we ask you to do weekly homework assignments? It's not because I'm trying to grade you. It's because I'm trying to give you the opportunity to go out and look at your environment where you're at. You could be walking through the mall. You could be in a family reunion. You could be sitting at a traffic light, and all of a sudden you look at the situation and you say, there are some cybersecurity implications to this. This could be something that, if done poorly, could result in, all the traffic lights going out or something like that. you start looking at the world through a cybersecurity lens. And we encourage you to come back and share that so that you can begin to speak the lingo. We also start each webinar every Saturday morning with a Mentees Share time so that you can, again, start realizing that you can practice with us before you get to your interview, for example. So Mentees Share time is also an opportunity where you can speak the language. As we're doing things here and talking about various topics, I frequently will stop and say, does anybody have any questions, comments, ideas, thoughts? The reason is I want you to be able to be comfortable speaking about all of these topics and how they all fit together. You don't just learn from a dictionary, go to your study guide, take a certification exam, and then walk into an interview. There's got to be somewhere in between, and that's what we're for. I hope that makes sense. We offer every mentee the opportunity to train on any topic you want. Nerman is the only one that's taken us up on this, but Nerman said, oh, I've been learning about this. I want to share what I've learned. I'm like, great, you have time. I will make time for any mentee that wants to talk about what they've been learning about. Why? Because it gives you the opportunity to speak the lingo in a supportive environment like this mentorship. And lastly, we also have a Speakers Bureau. You guys, if you've been with us for any period of time, you notice that I'm out talking a lot. I teach, I share with groups. The latest thing was to a medical center where I trained their branch chiefs, their section heads, on cyber safety. Why? Because I said, you know, this might be helpful to you. And the person contacted me and said, I think you're right. I want my people to learn what you have to share. So I spent 40 minutes sharing with about 20 members of their senior staff. When I got done, the CEO said, I want you back to do this same thing for an all hands. I want every person in this medical center to learn what you're teaching. So guess what? My slide deck now becomes part of our Speakers Bureau that anybody can use. Anyone on this group can agree to speak as a mentee in CyberSecurity Sensei and use our slides. So that's the fun part about this. Now, here's a phrase that some of you may be familiar with, and I want you to tell me what's the answer to this. How do you get to Carnegie Hall? Anyone remember that? Are you old enough? How do you get to Carnegie Hall? Anyone?
There's a lot to answer.
Are any mentees going to share? Okay, go ahead, Chris.
Practice, practice, practice.
Yep. Carnegie Hall is a big music venue in America. If you get to play at Carnegie Hall, you've reached the top of your, in this case, musical career. And there is a very, very old phrase where somebody's, you know, they're in New York and they're like, well, how do you get to Carnegie Hall? And, you know, it can be taken two ways. How do you navigate to get there? But no, what they're basically saying is, how do you get to be somebody who's there at Carnegie Hall performing? And the answer is you practice, and you practice, and you practice, and you practice. It takes years of practice before you've reached the level of expertise that deserves to be at Carnegie Hall. So that's what we're talking about. This mentorship program is your opportunity to practice these words and phrases. And I'm using an example here. You know, I have a treadmill, sort of, there in the picture. But if your treadmill is not being used, you are not using the treadmill. I don't care how many clothes you hang on it. You're not using your treadmill for what it's designed for. So practice, practice. So, and like I said early on, when you get to your interview, that's not the first time you should hear yourself saying things, technical things. Why? Because you have the opportunity to sound like you aren't good at it, you haven't practiced it, you're not smooth at it, and you can make mistakes. So our mentorship program allows you to speak about these things, to interact about these things, to the point where when you get to your interview, you are far more comfortable talking about the subjects that they're going to ask you about. So it's very important for you to understand that the CS-Sensei mentorship program is where you practice what you're learning. You do it by Mentees Share, you do it by homework, you do it by teaching the other mentees, you do it by the Speakers Bureau, and you speak up during the webinar if you have questions or comments or clarifications, even if it's a case of, so it's like this, right? Or something like that. Excellent communication. You've probably put this on your resumes and said, oh yeah, I have great communication skills. Everyone thinks they have great communication skills. But if you notice the 4 circles there, the upper left one is not learned, it's practiced. To become fluent, if any of you have learned foreign languages, I know a few of you, English is not your primary language. What is the best way they say to learn a new language? Is it classroom? Anybody want to share? What's the best way to learn a new language?
I think to go to the country and actually.
So you have to be
native speakers. I'm sorry.
That's good. Thank you, Kenya. Harminder? You were going to say something?
Oh, yes. Okay. The best way to learn the new language, you have the interest of those language, and you can practice at home. The language you want to learn, you can sit the same group and talk to the people who are very fluent in that language. So that's kind of things I can do. If I would like to learn a Mexican language. Why? Because I have a couple of friends, but I know the couple of words. You have to say hello, hola, and how say thank you, grace, and that I'm learning little words, picking up.
Right. And of course, ¿Dónde está los baños? Where is the restroom?
Oh yeah, that is very important. Oh yeah, thank you. That is very.
That's always a good one. But when we talk about fluency, and Kenya, I think you had it right. The best way to learn a new language, it's called immersion, and that means you go to a place where everyone speaks that language, and no one is saying, here's how to say this. They're actually doing it. You immerse yourself in that other language, and then you start hearing it, and then you start participating, and then you become fluent at it. Immersion is known to be one of the strongest ways to learn a new language. And that means you get into it and then learn while you're there. So for communication skills, your fluency in cybersecurity related terminology takes you to be talking about it. You've got to hear it and speak it. All right, so that's what I was trying to point out here. And like I said, this is where you become conversant. That was the original slide with our title. You become conversant here in the mentorship program. You share, you speak, you ask questions, you practice, and you teach each other. We are your training ground. although we don't do training so much as we teach you about the career field, we help you become comfortable with it, and then when you are ready to go, you can go into your interview with more confidence that you're going to be successful. So does anybody have any questions? I can't see you because I'm just on one monitor here. So if you have any questions or comments, just unmute and start talking.
Yes, Scotty, I have a question. First of all, thank you very much. The very valuable things you are sharing, because I have also such kind of situations when I am in the meeting, when I am in the class, and the person who addressed the meeting asked the question, tell everybody, do you have any question? I have a question in mind, but in the front of everybody, I can't say anything. So I attend a meeting the last week for my director. So I want to ask a question because there is 40 people sitting there from the different team. The first of all, I think the question I am asking, does it make sense? The question I am asking, is it appropriate question? And the second thing, the third thing I say is the question I ask, I don't want to be everybody laugh. This doesn't make a sense, or this is not technical question. At the final, I confuse myself. I think I will ask my manager instead of asking the director. And so sometimes you are not fully confident, you feel hesitate, ask the question. So that kind of, I'm sharing my experience, what I feel when I am sitting, how you told, I think 5 minutes ago, practice makes a man perfect. I'm 100% agree with you. Nothing happened in one day. That is my, that's why I want to talk. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you, Harminder. And thank you for sharing that. A lot of people have difficulty in just any sort of a public speaking role. But when you are, imagine being in a room where you become the technical expert. You are the one that people are going to, look to provide clarity or the answer on certain things. So sometimes it is almost required for you to be able to ask those questions, even if somebody else, may know it better than you or whatever. In the end, in the mentorship program, you are the one that needs to get this information. You are the one that wants to become fluent in the terminology so that you can, when you go in and speak to your or your interviewer, you can respond intelligently. But along with that, there's intelligence, but there's also confidence. And you don't become confident by reading. You become confident by practicing, So I think it's always helpful to speak out, because some of these terms are not something that you normally speak about. In fact, I would say many of them, you're not going to, walk down the road and say, hi, how's your attack surface? It's just not part of your conversation unless you're speaking with other cybersecurity professionals or in an interview with HR or somebody like that. So anyone else want to share before we go to this slide? Anyone else? Okay, so here's my thought. What you should think about doing, and I have it on the screen, 3 steps. Grab a term or a topic, something that interests you or something that challenges you. Find that and then learn about it. Okay, so you personally challenge yourself to become conversant in this, and then share with the team. That's what this is all about. That's why we're here. And so, of course, you say, well, do you have any suggestions on where I could start? Well, I'm glad you asked. How about attack surface versus threat vector? Sounds like very complex, but if you look down at the bottom, these numbers that you see at the bottom are within the Security Plus exam objectives. And it says, for example, in 2.2, in order to pass the Security Plus exam, you need to be prepared to explain common threat vectors and attack surfaces. So therefore, you need to understand what a threat vector is and what an attack surface is and why how they operate together. So you could learn. Here's another one, exposure. You say exposure. Yes, in cybersecurity, that is based on the risk, but you speak about it in reference to how exposed are we to this risk. If you notice down at the bottom, it's in 4.0, 4.3 and 5.2. Explain various activities associated with vulnerability management, and then 5.2, explain elements of the risk management process. So exposure is related to risk management and vulnerability management. That is something that you can become conversant in. Okay, here's another one, risk appetite. Chris, you turned me on to this one. You use this phrase a lot. And 5.2, it says, explain the elements of the risk management process. Risk appetite is basically the amount of risk an organization is willing to accept. That's their risk appetite. Make sense? So you take a phrase that you're unfamiliar with and become familiar with it. And here's the last one that I'll put up there, resilience. If you look down at the bottom, it's in 3.1 and 3.4, compare and contrast security implications of different architecture models. And 3.4, explain the importance of resilience and recovery in security architecture. Architecture is what runs everything. You put everything together into your architecture. When it's operating from a security standpoint, it's called an enclave. So those are the words that you need to become familiar. If you're in a room and somebody starts talking about it, that's not time for you to grab your dictionary. You need to be prepared to hear these things and speak on these things if asked. Does that make sense to everybody? I want to point out, and you've heard me say this more times than I can count, this CyberSecurity Sensei mentorship program is not the Chris and Scotty show. If we go through an hour-long webinar and only Chris and I have said something, we haven't been successful. Does that make sense? We want you guys to share. We want you to get to the point where you are literally interacting with each other, and all we're doing is saying, yeah, that sounds good, tell me more, or something like that. That is a truly dynamic mentorship webinar, not we come and sit and listen to you guys talk. It is not the Chris and Scotty show, I promise you. I am not here to speak. I'm here to help you become comfortable at what you're doing. Any questions? Comments? Anyone?
No, I got it. I understand. You are right. We have to speak more, and we have to be. So what you mentioned in the last slide, we have to pick a technical terms and explain, read about that, and make more familiar about the topic.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Anyone else?
Maybe a first challenge for our mentees is the three triad, the CIA triad: confidentiality, integrity, and availability, and how they relate to your business or what you're doing. And really just sit and think about it and try to understand it and see if you can explain it to people and apply it to your situations.
Mm-hmm.
When is it necessary to have availability, but try to keep the balance of the three?
Right. Chris is pointing out that what's called the CIA triad, and That is literally the foundation of cybersecurity. It tells you why you do what you do, why all of the, well, like Samson was mentioning, compliance, why you have to have compliance in certain areas, how you can understand your strengths and weaknesses. That's all part of that CIA triad. Where do we need to program more funds? Well, the funds should be based on the criticality of the information, all of these things. CIA triad, you must become conversant in it to be successful. You can't just say, ooh, look, I'm good at Splunk. That won't get you your job. Because, I'm sorry, go ahead, Chris. No, you're good.
Even in an IT role, you got to be thinking that as well. And I don't know if I could share this. No, I can't share the story. I'm sorry. But I had to use the CIA triad this week and really had to think about approving a request versus, oh, it's expired. And I literally had to have a risk talk with an agency, a company that I worked with. And they said, we understand the risk, Chris. Please do it. Okay, can I have it in writing? All right, Chris, please do this. Yep. Okay, here's how you do it.
Yep. Your value goes in understanding the career field, not just understanding the tools and how to use them. Again, when you get to your interview, you could be asked questions that sound like they're really wild, but they're designed to see how you think spatially. For example, if you're in an interview and they say, what keeps you up at night? What they're trying to hear from you is not, gee, have I learned enough? But they're trying to understand if you know why you're learning this. You're learning this so that you can become accomplished at this, so you can help protect them. If you think about it, that's what cybersecurity is designed for. You are there to help make this world a better place. And honestly, that's what they want to hear more than, gee, have I learned this tool enough? Or, you know, can I get some experience in this? Or can I go to training in this or whatever? All of those things do occur, but they want to know what drives you, where your basis comes from. In some of our mentors' times here, we've shared about why you need to understand your why. Why are you coming into this career field? And if you're doing it because, number one, the money's good, okay. Number two, it's technical and you like technical stuff, okay. But if you're not doing it for the right reasons, like you want to make a difference, then you could very well be someone that somebody is taking a risk on to bring into the organization. And if you don't like what happens in there, you end up becoming their worst enemy. And oh, by the way, they've shown you where all the keys are, you know? So when you're in an interview, they're not just looking at you technically. They're trying to figure out in a short period of time if you're a good person. Does that make sense? They're trying to figure out if you're going to be an asset of value to the organization. And you can train tools all day long, but you can't train to be a good person. So that's what we focus on here. We want you to learn that the most important thing is what makes you think that you're providing value to them. And it should be that you're helping them be profitable or, you know, have losses or whatever. Oh, I like that, Chris. Yep. You want to protect the business. That's a word you don't hear very often in an interview, but it's exactly what the manager's trying to hear from you. Make sense? Any questions before we finish up? I'm all done, and again, I'm sitting here in a Denny's, so my breakfast is stone cold next to me. But I wanted you guys to understand that this, again, it's yes, there's an extreme amount of technical proficiency that you will need to be successful in this career field. Absolutely. But that may not be what gets you in the door. It may not be. I frequently share about an individual. I was working for my organization, and I was right under the vice president. And she and I sat in the same office. And she walked into the office one day, and she said, "I'm going to hire this guy to work in our front desk where they're, face to face with the customers every day. It's the walk-up service desk." And she said, "I'm going to hire this guy." I said, "Oh, okay. Where does he work now?" And she said, "Chick-fil-A." And I said, "Oh, okay. Well, what's his technical background?" She said, "None, but I'm hiring him." I said, "Okay. Has he ever been in a technical situation? Does he, is he a technically oriented person?" And she said, "No, but I'm still hiring him." And I'm like, "Okay, let's go then." The reason is he had so impressed her with his ability to communicate and interact. She said, "I can train the technical stuff. This guy is a good person, and I can make him into a great technician." But you can't train to be a good person. So start there. I'm good, thank you. So start there at being somebody that people enjoy being around. When you walk into a room, you raise the, I would say, the maturity of the room. Not because you're the smartest one, but because everyone around you trusts you and thinks that you are valuable. Make sense? I'm all done. I'm all done, everybody. Does anybody have anything to share? By the way, welcome, Serena. I see you got on. Thank you for joining us. I'm Scotty. This is the team. Did you want to share and say hi?
Yes, very quickly. Hi, everybody. It's nice to meet you. Hi, Scotty. It's nice to meet you, too. Happy that I finally got on. Just want to say thanks to Kate that I got to know about this program, so I'm really excited to learn from everyone here as well and continue developing my journey in this field.
Very good. Thank you for sharing, Serena. By the way, Serena did identify that one of the things that she was very interested in is incident response. And, you guys always hear me do this plug, but we do have an incident response team that allows you to get experience you can put in your resume. It's not training. It's not a tabletop exercise. It's not a capture the flag. This is live, bona fide incident response experience. And it sounds like a minor thing, but you can put it on your resume and say, "I already do this." And that speaks volumes about what you want to do with your career. So, Serena, I'll be happy to share with you about the incident response team. Anyone else? Let's see. Oh, yeah, okay. Samson, same thing with you, if you're interested. Everyone else, I think everyone else here has participated. When we first got started, it was June and July of last year. I really want to do a shout out to Gulru. She took this incident response analyst thing and she did something with it. In 1 month, she filed 140 reports. And no one, not even me, has approached that number since. So Gulru, I salute you. You took off with this. And you are an example to all of us of how to be successful at it.
Thank you so much, Scotty, for mentioning it. Well, I was studying, and then it's full time at the table, and then had a lot of time to take off of the studying, and I did right away. And I like doing it because you feel that you're doing something beneficial while you're studying. And when you're studying for something and when you do see yourself doing something for sure, helping someone, feels so good.
Yeah, very, very true. I feel good doing it, and that's why I'm a mentor. I'm the program founder. Why do I do it? Because I'm doing good. It's not just training. It's not just learning. You're helping your families, friends, neighbors, your coworkers, your business associates, because you say, hey, I'm in a program where if you don't have time to report those spam and phishing emails, I'll report them for you on your behalf. Because number one, it helps to accumulate evidence so that we can send these crooks to jail. And number two, I get experience that I can put on my resume for cybersecurity. And number three, you get the things that arrive in your inbox get reported to the authorities. Everybody wins. Everybody wins. So the incident response team is a lot of fun, and it'll go only as far as you decide to take it. But Gulru, you are the record holder right now. And
thank you.
I tell everybody they should try and achieve what you have already achieved. Go ahead.
Yes, I would like to share something what incident response doing experience helped me with something else. It was very funny when I was speaking to one of our couple of our senior neighbors to share the incident for incident response, the emails, spam emails. I was telling them what I'm doing right now, and then all of a sudden one of my neighbors was who worked in IT long time ago, and he managed very well Linux programs, and he was the Linux development person as well at work. So he started talking about IT a lot to me and direct me to how to learn easier Linux programs. So today, and he had his LLC, who he's helping people to teach Linux actually, and he helped me to get experience on his LLC as on my resume, experience on knowing LLC, and helped me to learn it deeper and guide me. So something else brought me to something else that was very beneficial.
That is excellent. And if you think about it, how did he know that this was something that you were doing? You had to share it. That he knew because he heard you. You know? Yep. That's very good. That's how I get my speaking engagements. I walk into a room and I say, I'm a Speakers Bureau member. I'd love to teach you about cyber safety. What? Yeah, and I'll do it for free. What? You know, I want people to understand the value that I can provide, and to me it's important. So, yeah, you should always feel comfortable speaking about being a cybersecurity professional. I don't care if you've never had the job before, you are cybersecurity professionals. You're at the start of your career, but you should feel comfortable saying, I'm a cybersecurity professional. Get used to it. Okay? Thanks, everybody. That's all I had for today. Chris, did you have anything before we finish up?
No, very good session, and just don't be afraid to speak up, people, and take the podium and talk. We're here to have this open podium, and it's available to everybody. That's I don't want to talk anymore.
Okay. I will share the slide deck in our email list and on Facebook, so everybody can take a look at it. But I had fun putting this together. Please feel comfortable speaking in this group. We are a supportive group. We're your brothers and sisters. Let's make this happen. All right, everybody. Have a wonderful weekend, and thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks. Safe travels.
Thank you.
Thank you, Scotty.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, everybody. Have a nice weekend.
you.